failing helped. If you don't have a fear of failing anymore, then you can really be aggressive and go after things, because if you're not aggressive, work is not going to get done at Amazon or anywhere
So
else.
thank you so much, Anisha, for your time today. Would you please tell me a little bit about yourself?
The best way to describe me is, at this point, like, I'm a generalist. And I find that at Amazon, that tends to be the kind of people that mold well to the different situations and career paths that Amazon has to offer. In my case, I find that everything ties back to common sense. If you have like a good, um, steady head and can think through problems rationally, then it really helps. So, in terms of background, I happen to have done a bunch of different things. I started off as a software developer
Mm.
because I have a background in engineering. And so I did that for about 8 years at different investment banks. And then I realized that I wanted to go back to school because I was looking for a change in career. At that point of time, I thought I wanted to do finance. So I went back to a school that was known for finance, which was
Mhm.
UNC. Focused on finance, did an investment banking internship, realized it wasn't for me. And that's when I was looking to see what other opportunities existed.
Mhm.
And then Amazon from happened because I was talking to colleagues that had interned at Amazon, and the way they described it was essentially there was like the focus was on what's the word? I think it's meritocracy, and there was a lot of autonomy in terms of what you could do, and the problems were all new, and the scale was huge. And so that's really why I ended up recruiting for Amazon. And that's how I ended up at Amazon, like post B school. That was the first job that I started, and I still am here.
Can you tell me a little bit about your process of getting into the company? Did you have a referral? Did you like what did the interview process look like? And
Okay,
yeah, just a little bit about that.
sure. So I don't know if this is still the case. So it's been 3.5 years now, right, since we graduated.
Hmm.
But during my time, Amazon just has a very generic job listing that they post on all the schools' job boards, right? So, like everybody else, all I had to do was click on that and apply through the portal. There were conversations with recruiters, but that was more like they had them there just to answer questions. I don't think it had anything to do with networking,
Hmm.
if that's what you're getting at, right? So
Hmm.
you click on the portal, and at that point of time, for Amazon jobs, they were doing a simulation exercise.
Hmm.
So if you were invited to interview, the next thing would be these two exercises that you had to go to. One was a writing exercise where you had to write a 1500, I think 500 word essay
Hmm.
that essentially was testing your ability to make decisions. Like, how
Hmm.
do you make decisions is what that essay was looking for,
Hmm.
right? And then there was a simulation where it's essentially, I think this is my understanding of it, is it's trying to validate what you write about in your essay. Like, it's
Hmm.
trying to really see if you use data to make decisions
Hmm.
and how you make decisions. And,
Hmm.
and so I'm sure there's psychometric analysis that's happening in the background in that test, but essentially you had those two tests. You submitted your resume and whatever else, and then based on the evaluation that the system ran is probably how we all got calls to get interviewed. So that
Hmm.
happens. And then the interview itself, I think there are two, I had four. I know the format's changed since, but essentially I think I did all four on the same day. I could
Gotcha.
be, but and I remember it being virtual for sure because I was
Hmm.
sitting in our the career office,
At UNC.
the rooms there in the back, so
Yep.
I didn't have to travel for it. Did those interviews, and then the at that point the promise was to get back to us within 24 to 48 hours. So, and then that was it. Like, it was the interviews, and then we had the offer. After you get the offer, you have that choice to fly back and then experience Amazon in Seattle, right? So did that as well. Now the one thing unique about me is that I got calls for two of the programs. So I went through the same process
Oh,
for RLD and FLD. FLD is their
gotcha.
leadership development. So, if this is relevant to you, people that are listening, I went through the same process for financial leadership development as well. And the test there is different. It is an Excel test.
Mm-hmm.
So they give you an Excel file. There's you're sort of, I think what they're testing is how you process data and drive insights from it.
Mm-hmm.
There will be a question you have to answer. You get 45 minutes. You have to do whatever analysis do and send the file back.
Mm-hmm.
And then the interview kicks off
Gotcha.
shortly after. And essentially, you're in the interview. I think they're making you go through your thought process, your insights that you derived, and basically testing your problem solving skills.
Gotcha. That's interesting. Yeah. So you work in the middle mile team, which is for Amazon operations. Can you tell me a little bit about what you do and like your day to day, maybe?
Yeah. So for people that are listening, middle mile is something they might not be familiar with, right? Amazon in general started off like any other company with just a first mile, which was about getting inventory from the sellers to our fulfillment centers.
Mm-hmm.
As we grew bigger and the capacity we needed for transportation of goods to our customers grew, we essentially could not rely on just UPS or DHL or any of these
Mm-hmm.
third-party people to do it for us. So as we started doing more and more of that fulfillment of customer orders by ourselves, that's when you started needing a middle mile. So what that means is that we set up buildings of our own. So these are not fulfillment centers. These are sort centers. These are delivery
Mm-hmm.
stations. All delivery stations fall under last mile, but essentially we set up more and more of these massive facilities that
Mm-hmm.
are processing packages. All of these are packages that are trying to get to customers,
Mm-hmm.
right? So now when you have a new network that you set up, there's a whole bunch of technology that has to go into helping these buildings interconnect
Mm-hmm.
and getting product from one end to the other.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where my team falls. We're called Sortech, sortation technology.
Mm-hmm.
But essentially, what we're doing is building all of the tech tools that are used in these sortation facilities to get product from point A to point B. Now, if you look at the physicality of what that is, people are picking up a package from like literally one physical location and placing it in another physical location.
Mm-hmm.
But the point is they have to be very deliberate about where they place that
Mm-hmm.
package, because what we're doing is aggregating orders to ultimately get it to the customer, right?
Yep.
So there's a lot of automation, optimization, and configuration that goes into play
Mm-hmm.
to get you your package. And that's
Gotcha.
the kind of stuff that we're building. That's the easiest way to describe it. Like it translates into a whole suite of tools. It translates into like web pages, handheld devices, tools for managers to look at their buildings and understand what's happening. It's a little bit unimaginable for people outside of it, but essentially just the gist of it is that we have to build technical tools to handle a wide variety of features and a
Gotcha.
wide set of users, because this is
Gotcha.
a global network. So you have to deal with languages,
Uh,
because there's people in India, Europe, America. There's use cases like every package probably needs to be handled differently. For instance, if it has a lithium battery on it, there's special instructions to how to handle it.
mm-hmm.
And all of that has to be inbuilt into our software. So
Gotcha.
that's really the kind of stuff that we have to do. So that's why you need
Gotcha.
product managers. We work with people in the field. So that's your actual operations
Mm-hmm.
managers and associates in the warehouses. We have to understand what they need, translate that into technical requirements, and then work with our tech teams to actually build out those solutions.
Mm-hmm.
So that's our day to day. It's a lot of stakeholder liaising. It is a lot of ideation.
Mm-hmm.
And then it is the execution piece of it where you're working with the software team to get it implemented.
Gotcha. Going into operations, like, did you, and obviously product management as well, like, did you have any learning curves? And if yes, what were some of the stuff that you kind of studied, or was there any resource that you were able to check to kind of overcome those?
Mm, so everything in Amazon will have a learning curve, and that
No,
it's just it's
I
like
love how you put it.
yes, it's the way of doing business, or it's the way of communicating, or how do you get your ideas through, how do you build consensus, all of that. Everything has a learning curve. Same thing with operations. Like A had to learn what operations was in Amazon because I had no idea. And then B, you have to understand what problem you're trying to solve. If there's material, no, there's no material. Everything that I learn and do is I learn by doing, but really, like where I get the information I need is from conversations. And so that Amazon principle of earns trust is really the most important principle that I have to embody in my work every day, because I need to build relationships with people that are going to be telling me what they need. And it's interesting because what they think they need and what we really need to build from a software standpoint are two very different things.
Mm.
So it's on the discretion of the product manager to really parse what they say they need into system requirements. And
Gotcha.
then for us, it's extra hard because we have 17 stakeholder groups. So that's 17 different orgs all asking for different things, but the solution you build is one. So
Gotcha.
how do you do it in a way that satisfies the most
Gotcha.
uh,
Yep.
stakeholder needs?
Yep. Um, what is one experience from early in your life that helped you build an unexpected skill that you use today? It could be anything from your part-time job when you were in middle school, or anything that you have done, during MBA, or just about anything.
Two things. Failing helped, because then that if you don't have a fear of failing anymore, then you can really be aggressive and go after things. Because if you're not aggressive, work is not going to get done at Amazon or anywhere else. And the second thing would be just having to pivot so many times, like from engineering to software development. And I was an electrical engineer. I didn't know how to code, so I had to learn to code from scratch on the job. And then I went into finance. So I like studied for the CFA and whatever else, but like essentially just keeping on pivoting and
Hmm.
learning to be malleable is the one thing that has helped overall.
Love the answer. Um, what do you like the most, and what do you like the least about your role?
I do. So what I love most is the fact. So I get to work on greenfield projects because my specialty is problem solving and really parsing out the requirements. So I generally end up on projects where like there is no sense of the problem statement, there is no sense of the solution that's needed. There is just this vague sense of we have to solve XYZ. That's what I love most because I come in, I create order where there is chaos. And I find that it came quite naturally to me. It hasn't, like all the job switches that I've done, they haven't been the smoothest, but the product management role that I am in currently has actually turned out to be like the smoothest transition because it plays to my natural strengths. Like I have to think about systems and I have to come and solve problems.
Hmm.
So that's what I love the most. What I hate is the stakeholder conflict, where it's like, give me this, like, give me XYZ because I want it. Like, no, like, like, I also need to build ABC, but I have resources just for some of it, right? Like, so how do you, prioritization actually is not the hardest part. Prioritization turned out to be the easiest thing, but communicating that back to your stakeholders and making them accept it is the
Hmm.
hardest part. And I hate that part of my job.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. Yeah, I mean, prioritizing is pretty easy because they're numbers, and you can just
Yeah.
like sort them out. But yeah,
Yeah.
my second, my next question is actually about your Amazon's culture and work-life balance. But we can skip that if you want to.
No, it's really based on the person, right? And your like if you work smartly or not. So like there is balance if you can create it. In my case, if I worked more like without interruption on my tasks, I would have more work-life balance. But also, this is the pandemic. Like I have nothing to do, so I my default is to work because I'm really bored of watching TV. So that like in normal times, um, there is some work-life balance, but also my bar for work-life balance is very different to other people.
Gotcha. Gotcha. My last question, which
Yeah.
is advice for those who want to join Amazon and or who wants to break into product management.
Yeah. It'd be the same for both. I find like from running interviews and whatever else, we're trying to look for experiences that map back to how you would problem solve and build things at Amazon, right? So having a good sense or like find making opportunities in your current job to build in some of that capabilities early on so that you have the right stories to showcase when you're interviewing with Amazon would really help. And it's the same with product, right? Um, if you're not currently working in product management, how do you convince someone that you can do it? Is by finding projects that map to the capabilities of a product manager.
Mm-hmm.
And like really what that is like in my case, like maybe it's different for others. Like how do you identify the problem? How do you create the like how do you what's the word like how do you quantify the I mean like you identify the problem, then you have to put structure around the problem statement, and then you have to find a solution for it, right? Then there's the if you're in a team that has the resource to solve it, then you have to show that you went and solved it, right? If it's a question of influencing other teams to solve it, then you want to showcase how you influenced that the decision to solve it. Like how did you get the buy-in from other teams to go and solve that problem? And then you want to present like this is what I identified, this is how we solved it, this is the process I followed to get us there.
Gotcha.
And maybe like maybe it's a myopic view, but like I'm sure you can apply that story to other things that are not necessarily building tech products. That would also help showcase that mindset that we're looking for.
Gotcha. Yeah, no. Um, I love that answer. I think that was it for today, Anisha. Thank you so much for your time. I am sure everyone got valuable lessons out of it. Thank you so much.
I talked a lot. Thank you so much.
Thanks.